All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Unstoppable REI. I'm here with my friend Bryce McKinley. Bryce, you know what? I was about 2 seconds from wearing my hat and a hoodie because I every video I see you, and at least a lot of them, you're wearing that. So I was like, I was going to do that. So I'm glad I didn't because you don't even have your hoodie on, man. So I was like,
I know. I had a meeting this morning, and sometimes you have to clean up a little bit
you
and
know
put a.
what? You do. I get that. I did get that. And you clean up well. I'll just throw that out there.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate
So man,
it.
let's jump right in, man. I love what I've been seeing out there. Love what you're doing. In fact, I had uh, what's this last her name? Renea Star. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Rayon, Rayon.
Rihanna. She's gonna kill me. Rihanna, yes. And
Yeah,
yeah, she said, "Hey, you need to talk to Bryce." I was like, "Man, and I need to do that." So I appreciate it. So tell me your story, man. Give me your 30-second elevator pitch. Tell me what's
yeah.
going on.
My pleasure, man. Thank you first and foremost for having me on. I was going to actually ask you before I share my story.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you do you pronounce your last name as Thibodeau?
You know what? That's you hit it right on the head. I'm from New Orleans,
I
and
figured.
so yeah, Thibodeau's
I've got family in Thibodeau,
Do you
in
really?
Louisiana. I do. Yeah.
That's crazy. You know what? But I think that the city Thibodeau doesn't have an X on the end of it. I think, or
Oh,
spelled
okay.
differently. But anyway, yeah,
Fun
Thibodeau's.
fact for the viewers, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And here's another fact: Thibodeau's are either from Canada or they're from Louisiana. So, and in Louisiana, the name Thibodeau is like Johnson or Brown almost. There's a bunch of variations of it, but anyway, that's a little New Orleans history for another podcast. But
A whole nother show,
there
right?
you go. There
I
you
had
go.
to ask as soon as we started connecting a couple weeks ago. I was like, I
Yeah,
gotta ask. I gotta ask him.
I
So
appreciate it, man. But you hit it on the head. Yep, Thibodeau. That's it.
yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. By the way, you
Yeah.
guys, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Bryce McKinley. I'm an international keynote speaker, six-time international best-selling author. I'm first and foremost, however, a husband and a dad, and like my friend John Maxwell says, I'm a friend. And so I'm excited to be on here to really pour in as much as I can in the short amount
Sure.
of time. Man, my life hasn't always been this glamorous. I grew up in a very like strict, almost cult-like religion,
Okay.
parents separated, and then I moved into the housing projects and subsidized housing and was hanging out with all the wrong people and got into
Hmm.
some trouble. And man, by the grace of God, I had an opportunity to have a second shot at life, which would actually be the first of many I didn't know. And
Yeah.
and so I started my professional career actually detailing cars at a car dealership, begging my uncle for an opportunity to sell cars. I figured if I could sell dope in a big city like Chicago and
Yeah.
in Des Moines, Iowa, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, like all over the Midwest, I could sell trucks to farmers in Iowa. That was kind of my mentality, right?
Right. Right.
And so, it makes me think. My friend Les Brown always says, "You got to be hungry, right?" And
Oh
I was
yeah.
hungry, and so I begged and begged and begged for an opportunity. And one day, in the middle of a blizzard in Iowa, of all places, he's like, "If you can sell a truck or a car today, I'll put you on the team next week."
Nice.
Rufus, that's what I did.
Okay.
I went to dialing. I went to calling appointments that weren't going to make it because of the blizzard that we were experiencing that day. And by the end of that 7 8 hour shift, I ended up selling two trucks and an SUV, and the
Nice.
rest was history, man. I was hooked on the art of the deal. I was hooked on, like Zig Ziglar would say, helping people get what they want so that in turn, I could have everything in life that I want.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I go from selling or detailing to selling cars. So over the next couple of years, I become the number one car salesman in the world with Ford Motor Company, pulled out of my dealership and traveled the world for several years with Ford, later Nissan, Toyota. Honda would pick me up.
Oh,
And I thought that I had the world by the you know what. And little did I know, just like some of you listening that need to hear this, you're human too.
yeah.
And things happen. Bad things happen to good people, just
Sure.
like good things happen to bad people. And went through a series of unfortunate events with my wife at the time losing a child, and then her
Hmm.
battling alcohol and depression. And then Friday, June 13th, 2008, like my world come crashing down. She would end up taking her life and committing
Oh
suicide.
man. Sorry to hear that.
And I'll never forget like getting that call and just feeling like, F this, F the world, forget about people. This is about me and how I feel, and
Yeah.
just spiraling out of control, burning every bridge I had built, every road that I had walked. And 2 years later, close to $80 million in 5 companies flushed right down the drain in my beer and sorrows.
Wow.
And I found out that I had a child on the way with some girl that I had been having, a relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I sobered up. And that's when I thought that I was starting to get my stuff together. That's when I thought that things were going to be better. And ended up getting a couple of 6 and 7 figure contracts back in the corporate world, brought me to Texas, which is where I'm at, based out of today. And I came home one day, Rufus, and wouldn't you know, that darn girl had not sobered up. She had masked it, just like a lot of us entrepreneurs. We put our mask on, don't let nobody see who you really are.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what happened. I come home and she's passed out on the bed, pills everywhere, my little baby boy on the floor. And I knew that that was not where my journey was going to end.
Sure.
But it was just the beginning of something great and scary and frightening all at the same time. I packed a bag, took my little guy to a hotel, and on Monday morning I filed for custody of my boy. And over the next several months, fighting for custody, fake criminal charges that she would file on me maliciously, losing clients, stealing money from me. I ended up homeless, broke, in my car at the base of a water tower, because there's not many shelters out there for men, especially not men with children, that will take you because of safety and security and all the things. And I made a lot of money the year prior, and I drove a nice car. And so I found myself at the base of a water tower, September 28, 2011. And in that moment, I looked around. I just had a great conversation with my brother. I wrote a letter to my mom, and I wrote a letter to my son. And the same 40 cal that sits next to my bed tonight, it's never jammed before, hasn't jammed since. But in that moment, I said I was done. I pulled the trigger.
Wow.
Not just once, not twice, but 3 times. And in that moment is when I knew that while even now, even still searching for what my final, ultimate purpose is, I knew in that moment that I had a reason to be here. And I remember arguing with God. I call him bro. You might call him Jesus. He's pretty gangster to me, so I refer to him as bro. I'm like, all right, bro, show up. And I remember getting mad at God. And in that moment, I know this was a lot more than 30 seconds.
No, I love it. I'm loving it. Yes, please.
Appreciate that. In that moment, I heard, everything's going to be all right. And I fell asleep. I don't remember falling asleep, but I know I fell asleep because I woke up the next morning to a phone call from Wells Fargo, and there was fraudulent activity on my account. And I needed to go into a local branch to verify some transactions. I'm thinking, I'm going to jail. That's what I thought, I'm calling my mom, like, if anything happens, take my boy.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but let's see. And an old client had wired me 20 grand.
Wow.
I called my client. They told me what happened. They found an old invoice. And what does every good gangster do? Is frugal and go celebrates with tacos, right? So I went with my boy. We went and had lunch, had food in the belly and money in the bank. And I get a phone call from an apartment complex. And hey, we were wondering if you were still looking for a place to live. And sure enough, I had a roof over my head within a few hours, money in the bank, food in my belly. I'm like, the world is my oyster. And so I put together this plan. I'm going to bounce back. This is my come up, right?
Yeah.
And I was at the computer at a library applying for jobs and looking for sales positions, because my thought was I would get hired because, even like Matt Maddox and Tony Robbins have said that one of the number 1 sales trainers in the world. I figured if I could get hired, I could pitch them a consult, and worst thing they do is say no, and they hire me for a sales position. I'm great.
Right.
Well, I found a YouTube video all about real estate investing. We've probably all seen those, right? Like real estate investing, like no money out of pocket, all the bells and whistles. And So I watched a YouTube video about what this ad was talking about. Then I watched another one. Then I watched another one. But that's what stopped.
Okay.
That's what changed. Most people keep watching and watching and consuming.
Sure.
I knew after video number 3, I had a good idea what I needed to do next, and that was take some action. And so that's what I did.
Okay.
First month in the real estate business, and did 23 transactions. The next month,
Wow.
37 transactions, and the rest is history, man. Written a few books. I've been coaching for the last 4 or 5 years, and just been super blessed, man. So I'm excited to share today.
Man, that's a wild and crazy ride. That's like a movie, dude. Man,
I'm working on it.
I love it. So tell me, what is the one thing that you wish you would have known when you started your career?
You know, I've thought about this question many times, and,
Okay.
and I appreciate you asking.
Yeah.
I think that if there was one thing, it would have to be knowing, and I know this now, but
Yeah.
knowing that between two mountaintops, there's a valley.
Okay.
And just understanding that in order to go to that next level, that new platform, that new horizon that someone's looking for, right? Like that shadow of life, knowing that somebody somewhere, something is casting the light that creates the shadow. So keep pushing.
Okay.
That would have to be it. Between two mountaintops, there's always a valley. So
Nice. So tell me, man, it's not like I mean, like I said, a wild and crazy ride, but what do you think was your biggest failure that you've had, that you've experienced? I guess in life, business, whatever. And what did you learn from that?
yeah, that's a great question. You know, at the end of the day, from hearing my story, you can see the roller coaster of a ride. I
Absolutely.
think the biggest failure was really like I don't actually like to look at things as failure.
Oh,
I look
sure.
at it a little differently, right? I look
Yeah.
at them as like what was my greatest learning opportunity?
Okay.
And so I think that my greatest learning opportunity is really what I get the pleasure and honor of doing every day. And that's being a better husband. I'm recently married now. It'll be 4 years this year.
Oh,
And
congratulations, man.
thank you. Yeah. So I'm still, I mean, this is still newlywed, right?
Yeah,
Like four
yeah.
years. So like we got the
Sure.
rest of our lives together.
Right.
But I get to do the things today that get the results for the rest of my life that
Okay.
I didn't do in my first marriage before my wife took her life. Like, shut up, Bryce. You're a good talker, but maybe you should learn to listen, right?
Sure. Sure.
So shut up, Bryce. Your son needs to hear you a little bit more. And sometimes I'm still short with him and too rigid with him. So
Yeah.
my greatest learning opportunity or failure, as most would say,
Yeah.
has definitely been that self-reflection to
Okay.
be a better version day in and day out. And so that would have to be the lesson that I learned through all of this.
Nice. I like that. And by the way, yeah, congratulations. I have been, we'll be celebrating 31 years of marriage here coming up. So,
Nice. What's the
yeah.
secret, man? Tell me, what's the secret?
The secret is never giving up, man. And like you said, shutting up and listening. I'm married up, so I married a beautiful, smart woman. So yeah, I just try to shut up and listen as much as possible. So
Shout out to our wives.
there you
We
go.
always-
I love it.
married up.
You know it. So man, what along the way would have been sort of the best resources that you've come across that you can maybe share with people?
Yeah, I love that question. Matter of fact, one of my belief systems is that everyone needs a coach.
Okay.
So I have spent millions of dollars on personal development, coaching, mentoring, masterminds, and things like that.
Okay.
And so the best resource that I would absolutely say is just hiring a coach and jumping into a mastermind. I mean,
Okay.
heck, we can't see the label on the outside of our own jar.
Yeah.
So to have somebody there, you know, an accountability partner or
Okay.
somebody that's where we want to go to give us that roadmap to shorten the curve, right?
Sure.
Definitely have to be my answer for that. It's hiring a coach and finding someone that's already at where you want to go.
Okay, that's interesting because most of the people that I talk to, that's what they say. Because I mean, like you said, all successful people have coaches. The president of the United States has a coach. I mean, so it's like athletes, everyone. So that's good. What if you had to name like the 3 most influential people in your life? Who would those people be?
Mm. That's a tough one, Rufus.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that one.
Yeah.
Gosh, you know, Number one, I can't deny my faith. It would be Jesus Christ. Like, it
Okay.
doesn't matter what anybody else out there listening to the sound of my voice believes.
Yeah.
I'm not here to change your mind. I
Sure.
would encourage you to do the homework, because I didn't believe.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
all the things that all the other people say to do
Okay.
to find yourself.
Right.
But when I did the research and I did the homework and I dug within and I had conversations with what at the time was my higher power,
Yeah.
Jesus is hands down the most influential person in my life. Next to him, I would have to say my wife and my son. I
Okay.
mean, my son was there in the darkest part of my life,
Yeah.
and he would smile, not knowing any different other than where we were in the moment.
Right.
And so between Jesus and my son and my wife, like, I mean, she took me when I was in that 1-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
She seen me on my come up and was still with me and still loved on me and dated me from afar
Yeah.
while I built what I'm still working on. And so those hands down would have to be the most influential people in my life.
I love it. Talk about unconditional love, huh? Kids, just the kid smile and the wife. Love that. What would you say is a like a myth within real estate, the real estate investing community that you can debunk? Just one. And there's a lot out there, but
Ah, there's so many,
yeah.
right? Like, we got to have a whole bunch of money. We got to have a whole bunch of systems. We got to have this. I think that the number one myth, if I was to put my finger on it,
Yeah.
is that you have to be smart and know all the things. Like,
Okay.
I'm not college educated and I barely graduated high school. And if this rough around the edges, like,
Yeah.
balding old man can do it, right? Like, anybody can do it.
Okay.
Anybody can do it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If you were on this side of the screen here, you're asking the questions here. I mean, what should I be asking you that I'm not? I mean, what is it that you want people to know about that I'm not asking you about?
You know, I've thought about this a few times, right? Like, you sent me a few of the questions,
Yeah.
like, here you go to prepare. And it just keeps boiling down to one thing:
Okay.
understanding and having better conversations.
Okay.
That's it. If I could ask myself something and let me go down a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
it would have to be like, what is a better conversation? What does a better conversation look like?
Okay.
Right? Because that's, I think, number one. What do they always say in relationships? Like, what's the number one failure? It's communication.
Yeah.
I
True.
don't even believe that as much as I believe that that's a really big factor.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely like, Bryce, tell me why you feel communications is the thing.
Yeah. Right. Right. So before I ask this last question, I want to know how can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you online?
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
First and foremost, if you're listening on podcast, again, my name is Bryce McKinley, BryceMcKinley, like Bryce Canyon and McKinley Mountain, or the present, kind of a national monument. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Bryce McKinley on any social media platform
Okay.
it's really probably the quickest way to reach out. You can find links and bios all over the place.
Okay.
We also have our coaching program, REIResultsAcademy.com, if you want to know more about what we do and how we do it. We've actually got a sales training that's coming up once a month.
Okay.
On Thursday. And so that's REIResultsAcademy.com/training.
Nice. All right. Lots of ways to get a hold of you. I love that. So here's a question. It's like a two-part question here. So first, if you Google the term real estate investor failure rate, you'll see that 95% of real estate investors fail. Okay, that's a really big number. And so what I want to know is, number one, how would you define the word unstoppable? And I want to know, when it came to you achieving the massive success that you have in an industry that has a 95% failure rate, what did you do to make yourself unstoppable where failure was concerned?
I'd have to say master the process. Most people fail because they get into the weeds and they have all these systems and they take this YouTube video and this free coach and this free seminar and they try to piece their business together and master, or Frankenstein, as I like to call it, Frankenstein their business with all of these things, and they don't even understand the process. Okay. And so for me, coming from a Fortune 500 business consultant to never having any real estate or knowledge of other than have a realtor walk you through a transaction, probably overpay, do a rehab and bank on the equity later, that whole model that's like the average investor that does make it, right? I think for me, it was mastering a process. Okay. I understood that marketing went out, and I'm giving away like $1 million tips here, folks. Yes. When you do marketing, leads come in, and when leads come in, you better have a conversation. And I've got a framework around 5 steps of every conversation. We're doing it right now. If I had the time to explain it. Yeah. And so I would say for me, and what everyone should take away is master a process before adding systems.
Okay, nice. I love that. And that's what you would say that you did to make yourself unstoppable, where you're, and I mean, obviously you're involved in a number of different businesses besides just real estate, but would that be what you say helped you as well, just being unstoppable?
Absolutely. I understood the process of business, no matter if it's automotive or door-to-door sales or retail. There are 7 steps that happen in every business from the time they open the doors and file the LLC to the time they close it or scale it and sell it. There are 7 steps. And then inside of those 7 steps, there are 5 steps that happen daily in micro processes. And so when you master those 2 set of processes, the world is your oyster. So master a process over a system.
I love it. So it sounds like we're going to have at least 2 more conversations. One to discuss the 7 steps, one to discuss the 5 steps. So we got 12 steps left to go through. I love that. So, man, listen, and again, I apologize for the initial technical difficulties, but I appreciate your time. I know your time is hugely valuable, and learned a lot here. I know the listeners have as well. And man, I just want to do this again. Are you open to that? Can I reach out to you again?
Absolutely. I'd love to break some things down. I'd love to. I love it.
All right. Sounds good, Bryce. Well, thanks again for your time, man. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
Pleasure. Take care.
Okay. You too. Bye now.